Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is the Kia EV9. This is a vehicle that I have quite a bit of history with, sort of. When it was first announced at the LA Auto Show, the concept car was announced at the LA Auto Show. I was there, and at the time I was known as a Kia expert, and this came out since I left Kia, so I've been wanting to see this vehicle for a long time. Thanks to Fredericton Kia, I'm able to do that. They gave me a complete day with this to do what I wanted with it, to spend some time with it, and then come back and make a review for you. So what's cool about Fredericton Kia is, one, they're in Fredericton, and two, as an EV dealer, they're actually a dealer. Some of you may know, if you've been following my channel, that I drove for a Tesla Model Y for a number of years, and I got rid of that because sometimes it's nice to get rid of bad dealers in your life and just deal with a technology company, but sometimes you just want to talk to a person, or you don't want to have to drive 5 hours to get something looked at the dealership, and that's where Fredericton Kia comes in. They are absolutely awesome, great customer service, great people. They're under new ownership now, so they've been fully cooperative with me and amazing. I know some of the team here, and they really are awesome, and I know they're well trained because I saw just the other day when I walked past a dealer's desk, someone was watching a training video, and I was on that training video. I wrote it and did stuff, so there's good stuff going on here, and I'm hoping to tell you about this thing and tell you about a few things that maybe some of the other videos aren't telling you about. So that was a very long intro. Let's get into this one. Let's talk about the Kia EV9. So let's go way back to when the concept version of this was introduced. It was basically only electric cars. Tesla had some stuff going on, but you didn't really see an SUV. It was kind of like a pipe dream to create an SUV that was going to be relatively affordable. Now again, relatively affordable within the EV space. But one of the concerns I had about the concept vehicle is it looked like this, and what I mean is this looks like an SUV. A lot of the SUV concepts were turning into cars as they became cars. This one we were told was going to look like a Telluride, but an EV version, and I think they did a great job. It really is something that feels like an SUV, and that's going to appeal to SUV buyers. What's cool about this when I drove it for the day is a lot of EVs you get in and there's a lot of weirdness to them. This one still has some technology. The EV space is still a space of technology, and it can be weird for some people, but as far as actually getting in and driving it, this thing feels normal. It feels like a great Telluride. So you have some natural benefits to an EV, but it also, the way it's tuned and done, we're going to talk about that in this video because I like what Kia has done with the electric motors tuning this, and I think there's some neat things that they do that will pay off for owners in the long run. So let's talk about some of those. Let's just start here with the tires first. So from a styling perspective, I would say that the wheels on this are probably one of the most controversial things. It doesn't look like regular vehicles, but you have to remember that the EV space generally is trying to eke out every little bit of range that it can, and having aerodynamic wheels, which means mostly covered wheels, is something that is positive. So you can decide if you like that or don't like that, but this is another cool little detail that I don't think a lot of people are pointing out. Yes, these are 20-inch rims. Now, a lot of time 20-inch rims on a regular car means very small sidewalls. Now, these ones are still 275, that's the width, 50, which is the percentage of tire that is sidewall, by 20-inch rims. So what that means, though, you may think 50 series tire is a low profile tire, but what you actually have is a very wide tire, and because it's so wide, the 50% of the tire that is sidewall actually is enough sidewall for a typical SUV. What I'm getting at is if you went down gravel roads, bumpy roads, that kind of thing, you still have enough sidewall to absorb bumps. That's something you don't tend to get on the larger wheeled Teslas, and what that means is this thing rides very well. It's not just the tires, it's also the overall suspension and tuning of this, which I quite like for the purpose of this vehicle. So one of the things you're going to notice with this vehicle is it's not really tuned for sport, and I think that fits the market who wants to buy an SUV, especially a 3-row SUV. This thing is really tuned to exactly the kind of driving that you're going to want to do with it. So before we jump inside, show you the space, show you some of the technology, let's talk about some of the technology that you can't see and why it matters to you as a buyer. So first of all, having driven Teslas and that kind of thing, Tesla is not so much a luxury car company. That's really what we say about, traditional car companies. They're more of a technology car company. So they are really leading in that technology space. But when you talk about moving up to a sort of a luxury type feel, this is far more traditional luxury type vehicle, despite despite the fact that Kia doesn't have a specific luxury brand like Hyundai does with Genesis, and Toyota does with Lexus, and then Nissan does with Infiniti, all that kind of stuff. But what you get here is something that's tuned very well. So one of the keys about tuning an electric vehicle for luxury is realizing that electric motors can have instant full torque right away. So instead of going through a transmission, when you give it the gas, you want that, in some cars, they can give you that instant torque, and you right away almost chirp the tires. It has a punch in the back of acceleration, and that feels like acceleration to people. But reality is, what that does is it just wears your tires in everyday use. What Kia has done with this is they've tuned it for the buyer that should be buying this, which is not someone who wants a Porsche, but someone who wants a three-row SUV. So when we compared it to the Telluride works through its 8-speed transmission. This thing is tuned to give you strong acceleration without being a punch in the back. When I say that, what it does is it gives the wheel power that builds power quickly as opposed to punches you in the back and goes. That is likely going to help you on tire wear. Now we should talk about tire wear. I have a Kia EV Soul in my house. It is a front wheel drive car with all that torque, and the Kia Soul has about 275 foot-pounds of torque, or 291, excuse me, foot-pounds of torque. When you put all of that power to the front wheel, as you accelerate, the vehicle sort of leans back a little bit, right? The power pushes you back in the seat, and the front wheels unload. What that means is you have a lot of torque going to wheels that lose power. Although this looks like a Telluride, the Telluride is a front wheel drive based vehicle that adds all-wheel drive. Now traditionally in the gas vehicles of Kia's all-wheel drive vehicles, they start with all four wheels receiving power, and then it moves it to the front. This one is different. It's a rear-wheel drive based vehicle, and the power can be set to the front motor. So you have a motor in the rear and a motor in the front. Instead of using the front motor as the main driver, the rear motor is the main driver. And when you don't have a transmission, you have instant torque available, even though they've tuned it down, even in sport mode, it doesn't punch you in the back. It gives you power, but the weight is transferring onto the wheels that need power. But if you need all-wheel drive, there are drive modes, terrain modes, all those things that you can set it up for, so it's pre-ready for your weather. But even if you don't set it up, it doesn't feel like a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It's going to feel like an all-wheel drive vehicle. That's a very technical way of saying Kia knows what they're doing with electric vehicles. They put the power where they need it. They tune how that power comes in for you when you're driving. So this is a smooth driving, comfortable vehicle. I'll also talk about the ride. We talked about those tires giving a little bit of extra cush. Well, when you drive this vehicle, it feels comfortable over bumps. It's not crashing over some of the bumps that a lot of Teslas crash over. This thing is very smooth over bumps. So that is the basic overview of this. Let's talk about some of the space inside, and we'll talk about the driver's environment. So this seems silly to gas buying SUV public, but a lot of the problems with the previous SUVs before this was announced was they were all trying to get that crazy aerodynamic look. Now this still does have that curve down here. If you sort of take a look and stand from my height, this spoiler is not straight out like it would be on some gas vehicles. It is still curved down on that fastback kind of line, but this is a very square vehicle, and what that means is when you tap the button there and let this open up, you actually have a large square opening with a significant rise to the roof. This one, of course, is a six passenger vehicle in that it's got captain's chairs up front, captain's chairs in the middle, which we'll see in a second, and the two seats back here, which are big enough to fit a six footer, so they are comfortable. I'm leaving them down for now because I think a lot of people want to see the space in here, and this is legitimate space. So let's bring you in closer and show you that. All right, so I'm cheating a little bit. I'm showing you this in a wide angle view on the camera that I'm filming at. But the reason I'm doing that is because you do need to show some width here. You have the seats here, and if I'm, again, a 6-footer, if I'm reaching with my hips, I'm full out laid down just to get my toes to touch the left side seat, which is all the way back. This is a very spacious, very traditional feeling large SUV. Now, I do have one small issue with some of the extra storage that some vehicles put in on their electric vehicles. Compared to a Tesla, you do have a little bit less underfloor storage space here. This is one of your chargers. I would stick that in the frunk. The frunk is also smaller than a Tesla Model Y, but it is still usable for a lot of things, especially things like this. So that would clear this whole area up to be available for you if you needed passengers. Now let's just quickly throw up that passenger seat here like this. You throw this up like this, you put that seat up there, or the headrest up there, and that's how you put them up. Super, super simple. You can fit child seats in there as well. A lot of people wonder, can you put them in the third row? Not every vehicle does that, and of course you can here in the EV9. Take a look at the rear seat here, or I guess the middle row seat as it would be. If I jump in here as a 6-footer, this is comfortable. Now there's a few things that make this feel better than a gasoline vehicle. First of all, headroom's great. There's a sunroof above me, and it actually spreads well behind me, so the third row people are still going to benefit from that. I'm going to take you in here for a second, but I want to show you, of course, these seats are adjustable. You can make them as comfortable as you want, recline them back. One of the cool things is every seat in this car has at least one USB-C port just for them. So in the middle row seats, you have it off the front of the seat in front of you. In the rear row, it's on the wall, but you know, it's very comfortable. If you were sitting here, you could very easily be here for a long, long time. There are some cool things in here. I'm going to pull this out here, and we're going to show you that when we bring you in right now. All right, so I am filming in wide angle again, just to give you a better sense. This is a little more how your eyes would see this area here. A couple things I want to point out before I get to this here is, in this top line model, you have ventilated and heated seats. Now, if you're wondering about the shininess there's some of the original shipping plastic still in this car, but even the middle row seat is ventilated. Now, this piece pulled out of the center console. Now, you would think that robs a lot of center console space, but when we get to the front, we're going to show you some of that. But this is made possible because you don't have a drive shaft running from the front to the rear. This is one of those things that you can't do in a gasoline vehicle the same way you can do it in an electric vehicle. So of course, you got a little shelf here, big whoop, who cares about that? But you also have a space that is quite large where you can pull that back and stick, you know, your kids' stuff or whoever's in the back row, their stuff is in there. And of course, you can pull that out and actually come further than that piece and give yourself a little table here. So if you're sitting there, you know, eating fries or something like that, when you're at a charge stop, you can sit there and set something down there. Now I will show you over here, we'll zoom in a little bit further. There's your USB-C port on the back of the front seat. I should show you these as well. These are hard plastic, which I really like because they're easier to wipe down if you've got kids that are kicking into this, but they are very large, they're elasticized on the side, and you have a really usable pocket space in there, and you can pull them out far enough to actually vacuum in there, which is just a little simple thing. Your rear cup holders are here between the front rows, and if you've ever seen a Kia minivan of recent times, you know that the front minivan seats can be moved to create more space for the rear passengers. So if you have kids in the back and you just are sitting in the driver's seat, want to give them a little bit more space, you can move that seat back, and you can also move the seat back up and down as the driver. And of course, the passenger can control that from the traditional areas. One thing I want to show you is the back of the front headrest right here. You do have that mesh type area on the headrest. That is really crucial to being very comfortable. I'm going to show you that in just a second, because this front seat does have something that's very unique and very useful for an electric vehicle owner. So before we jump in and show you the driver's seat, I want to show you the traditional controls down here for the driver's seat. That's kind of typical stuff. But there is a button here that controls what I call the lazy boy feature. I'm sure Kia's got a way cooler name that isn't trademarked by some other company. You can use this button to adjust this panel right here, but I'm going to use this button here. Even with the car off, I can hold this button down, and let's see, let's push it this way. It's moving the seat forward, and I don't know if you noticed, but the steering wheel also comes up. Now the steering wheel might have been raised up just because of the way we have it set up for when the actual vehicle is door open, but you can see this thing is turning into a lazy boy. Now, of course, you're not going to drive like this, but this is one of the realities of owning an electric vehicle. If you're driving around town and you're driving your normal everyday stuff, this thing's got close to 500 kilometers of range. We're going to talk about real world range in just a second, but if you're driving around town, you're charging at home. There are times though, when you go on a long trip, you're gonna have to spend some time charging. This thing is incredibly quick charging, especially if it hits the right chargers. We'll talk about that in a second, but if I'm sitting down charging, I don't wanna go into the dingy gas station, I wanna recline. And I'll show you when we come in where my head is on this soft headrest, my legs are rested up here. This thing is super comfortable, and that is what I would call your long-term charging position if you want to hang out in your vehicle. It's like sitting in a lazy boy at home. You press the button, you hold it. I don't know if you have to hold it, but I'm going to hold it until everything comes in. It brings it back to where I needed it to drive, and of course the steering wheel is also electrically controllable, and you can have that. Let's bring you in now and show you a couple of features in here. All right, so we are wide angle. I just want to walk in here and show you the pieces here. If you just wanted to bring your leg rest up like there, you can do that with just this. This is the full recline button, forward and back. It changes everything there, including moving your steering wheel. You got the 4-way lumbar support, all good stuff, heated and ventilated seats, so all of that is really good. Now, let's jump in here. I've got the window open. We're gonna show you one little thing that I don't love because, especially the way I have the steering wheel turned, it's hard to see. Your start button does not say start, it says EV, and it's on the gear shift. So I'm gonna press that with my thumb right there, and the vehicle is going to turn on. I'm going to put my foot on the brake and press it so we actually get the vehicle to start. I am shutting the window. I had that open for a second here. You can see your various blind spot detection, blind spot warnings. We're going to show you a little bit more about that in a second. So, steering wheel is now loose. We're going to go full wide angle. First of all, I want to show you the seat, the headrest again, because they have that office chair type mesh. And when I was in that reclined position, a lot of headrests are safety only, but that is a very comfortable headrest in that lazy boy position. So that's something that we have in the driver's seat. Okay, let's take a look at the dash here. First of all, let's talk about range. This is brilliant by Kia. There's a number of ways to see your range in this dash. You can see it in the center, you can see it everywhere else, but it's saying, hey, I have 447 kilometers of range. Our charge is at 99%. And that's the way people have been driving this vehicle. A lot of dealership cars do exactly what I'm doing right now, sitting around idling with the climate control on. But look at what it tells you. Maximum range is 591. Almost nobody's going to get that. Minimum range is 354. Almost no one's going to get that. So it's giving you an idea that, hey, if I was to do a road trip, I might want to prepare for a charge around 354. Now, the reality is those margins will probably close in a little bit if you just have one driver, right? I drive a little bit more efficiently than the 354 for sure. I drive more efficiently than the 447. So I'm going to be closer to that 591 marker. I would be certainly over 500 on this car when it has a full charge. And what that means is you start planning your charge stops based on your overall range. And that means that you can hit the actual fast chargers, because there's a lot of fast chargers that are not made for a car that is this fast charging. There's a lot of vehicles out there from a lot of the competitors that can't charge at the speed that this thing can charge at. So what that means is, if you stop at a regular fast charger, you'll charge the same speed as every other EV. But if you stop at the super, super fast EV chargers, you can charge faster. And that's one of the benefits here, is it's very honest about its range. That's a huge feature if you're planning a road trip, because there are times you're gonna have to stop for lunch and let this thing charge. And now you can sort of plan around that and hit your chargers. This is a menu, I had it on earlier. It does show power distribution in bar graphs. Now, of course, we're not going anywhere, but on a typical Kia Telluride, you'd see all four wheels build up the bar graphs, and then it would move to all front wheels. On this one, it's going to be a lot more rear wheel usage, and even just rear wheel usage to get you maximum range overall. But you've got some tricks up your sleeve here. This is typical Kia stuff. When I signal, you can see that there is a screen that displays in your speedometer, which is showing me out here in your blind spot. So not only do you have blind spot detection, something that only recently came to Teslas, but you also have an actual display screen that shows you your blind spot. Now, what's cool about that is if you turn the signal off, it will disappear. But if I throw this vehicle in reverse, which I will try to do here, you will see not only the backup camera, you also have the full 360 camera, and it has the guidelines. So when I turn the wheel, you're gonna have all this stuff. This is typical Kia stuff nowadays, but it does make the vehicle feel premium. The other thing that makes you feel pretty premium is you have proper Android Auto and Apple CarPlay in this massive display. Now, this looks like one continuous display, but it's actually not. You have a large display here and a 12.3 inch screen over here. A lot of the older Kias, a lot of the older stuff, their large screen was 10.25. This is 12.3 inches. So this is a very large screen. And although the clarity is, obviously my camera's adjusting, you can see my reflection here. The clarity isn't perfect on camera. It's excellent in real life. And what I love is you have a huge Apple CarPlay screen. So you can turn this into just a huge Google Maps screen if that's what you want. You can turn it into all kinds of different things. You've got settings galore here, so it's very simple to swipe across. One of the things I do love here is it's very responsive. That's a good thing. One of the things I don't love here is if I'm looking here in a wide angle type view, my climate is slightly hidden. Now, I have two eyes, the camera has one, so that's partly why you're seeing more glare than me, but it also shows why you can't see the climate control stuff here. So we're gonna zoom in a little bit there. One thing to keep in mind with an EV, you want to use the auto setting as often as possible. So this will allow the fans to go full speed if it needs it. This will keep the fans slower speeds, but still allow you to reach whatever temperature you wanna set. On an EV, your range is drastically affected by your heat use and your fan use, and this thing allows you to put it in auto. That's a crucial thing. So I kind of am okay that the heating system is kind of hidden. This is kind of how I see it. I just see the controls and that kind of thing. So I'm kind of, because I have two eyes, we can see better than the camera with one eye, but it's a little bit hidden. I would like it down here. Now, to be fair, you can move the temperature up or down here and there. It's very easy. You can use the fan speed up and down here. It's very easy, but you do want to keep it in auto as much as possible on a vehicle like this to get you maximum range. One thing I will say about this interior is it is very airy. You can see the double sunroofs. The rear sunroof doesn't look as large in camera as it does in person. The front sunroof is still a fairly large sunroof, but more traditional in space. It's large because it's a large vehicle. The other thing you're going to find is the square design of an SUV just gives you more of a spacious feeling. This does not feel like a coupe. It feels very wide open and very spacious, and that is a very good thing from the driver's perspective. One more little thing I want to show you before we jump out, but let's just show you that right now. So I'm filming wide angle here because I want to show you on this center console. Now we know that the space underneath here is mostly taken up by that rear console. You do have a wireless charging pad here, a lot of things in there, but you also have a large space. So if you are someone who carries around a purse or a larger bag, that is a great spot to use for that. And again, this is enabled because there's no transmission in here, there's no engine intrusion, no driveline intrusion, so you have a massive space. It's one of those things that doesn't show up on camera, but it does show up here. The other thing is, if you want to use this like I do for just sunglasses or other things, you can put things like that down there, but simple push the button and you have some cup holders in there so you can set that up. And if you don't want to look at those, no problem. One cool feature, see this? Fingerprint reader. You have the ability to use your phone and fingerprint to get this vehicle going. I want to trust that 100%. I would say driving around town, I probably would trust 100%, but if you're going on vacation, do yourself a favor, take the key just in case. So before I give my final thoughts on this vehicle, obviously, if you want to know more about the technology in this car, we can do a second video. I have access to these vehicles anytime I want, and I can come back and we'll do a proper technology review. But I want to talk about where this sits in its place to help you decide who it's for. First of all, one of the things I find about Tesla, which is a lot like its owner, is they rely on people talking about it, talking about it, talking about it. And Tesla has its fervent fans. It is a very different car, but again, it is really a technology car. And if you want a technology car, there really is no better car than Tesla. It is a very different technology. I would not say that they are true luxury cars, and I've owned a Tesla, so I can say that from my own opinion. Tesla fans will disagree with me. This one to me absolutely feels more luxurious than a Tesla. It absolutely is more spacious as far as like the feeling of spaciousness overall. Now some people will compare, hey, this one's got a bigger, deeper trunk, this one's got a bigger front trunk, and sure, if you want to compare all that kind of stuff, that's fine. This one also has a roof rail that runs right from here right to there, so you can fit the absolute largest roof boxes, which really don't affect range that much, and I guarantee you if you really had to go on a trip, you're going to have more range in this thing or more capacity in this thing without affecting enough range to make a difference. What I will say about this vehicle is it really is hitting the heart of the market. A lot of people want those large SUVs, and when you consider that this thing is far cheaper to operate and run than the cheapest small gasoline economy car, and you're getting luxury and you're getting good power and you're getting a lot of seating, including things like heated and ventilated seats in the rear, sunroofs, like all that kind of stuff in a vehicle that is quiet and smooth and feels special. I think that's what people want in a higher end SUV. Now again, you have to make compromises with an electric vehicle. Drive around town, you never have to stop for gas. You never have to do an oil change. You can charge it from your house. With the amount of range that this one has, a huge amount of your charging is going to be done in your house. But if you need to travel, fast chargers are available. One thing to keep in mind, this one now has that Tesla port, that North American Charging Standard port, NACS port. One problem is, in this area here, there are very few version 4, or I think it's version 3 or 4, but there are very few of the versions of Tesla chargers that you can actually plug into right now. So not every Tesla charger is going to charge this, which means sometimes you're working at different chargers, but you can very quickly find out through very good apps where to charge and get the fastest charging speed. And now with the range, you're driving past the slower fast chargers to get to the fast chargers, and you can get on your way and have much quicker trips. So this is narrowing that gap between a gas vehicle and electric vehicle, and I would say that if you're willing to spend a little bit more money than something like a Telluride to step into something electric, you do have some benefits of that electric drive, that smooth, quiet powertrain, that lots of torque, instant torque, and a very unique vehicle that isn't so unique that it's foreign. So that is my semi-introductory review of the EV9, a little bit longer than I want it to be, but I'm excited about this vehicle, and I think for the right buyer willing to spend the money on it, you really are getting value as well in this type of machine, and it's the kind of thing that I think is going to feel special enough that you're going to want to keep it for a long, long time. So there you go, there's the EV9. Again, give this video a like. Fredericton Kia is absolutely awesome to me. They take care of me, and there will be more vehicles from here and all other places. And if you're worried about me giving up motorcycles, we're still reviewing all kinds of motorcycles as well. We'll have that on this channel. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.